Good morning everybody. I thought we'd do a quick tutorial on how to make one of these hair scrunchies. Super simple and nice and easy to make, so let's get going. Okay then, let's go. So all you need really is some fabric scissors. I'm using a fat quarter today, some elastic, your chosen thread, and then your bobbin that's full, and a tape measure. To start off with, we're just going to iron out the fabric. So I'm using a fat quarter here, which is 22 inches long. And we're going to cut a strip that is 10 centimetres wide. Obviously, if you'd like to make a child's scrunchie, you could do a smaller width, so like a 5 or a 6 inch width, which would make it a narrower scrunchie for thinner, smaller hair. Or you can make them longer, which would make a more gathered scrunchie, so a nice and full one. But just for the tutorial today, I'm just going to use one fat quarter and cut it at 10 centimetres. So here, this is the easiest way I find to do it. Just fold it in half, measure out what I want, iron it, and then we're going to cut down the crease. And there we go. So the next thing to do is just to take your fabric lengthways and turn it right sides together and fold it in half. And just steam that down with the iron so it's nice and crisp. You can see at the other end of the fabric I've done a little turnover of 1/2 inch just so that you can see later on which end I'm sewing with, but that is not necessary for you to do, just so you can see where I am. So now we need to go to the sewing machine, sew along the long edge but leave a gap of about 1 inch to 2 inches, about 1/4 of the way down, and you'll see why in a bit. So over at the sewing machine, start, go backwards and forwards and lock your stitch in. I've gone down about 2 inches here, I would say, 2 to 4 inches. And then I'm going to leave a gap. Sometimes you can lift your fabric and move it along without cutting the fabric, but for some reason today it wasn't playing. Snip it off, keep it all nice and tidy. And then I'm going to start a little way down, leaving a gap, and then sew all the way to the bottom. And there we go, so just going to trim the threads away, make it nice and tidy, and you can see along the long edge we've got a small gap. You can see I haven't sewn down very far, it's just we only need a small gap for turning out. Then take your safety pin. On the edge that is furthest away from your gap, safety pin in, and we're going to turn it inside out. I always like to put my safety pin along the seam edge so I can keep it straight inside, because what you don't want to do is turn the fabric and it will get all twisted whilst you're sewing, otherwise your hair tie will be all in the tiz. Now the most important thing here is to not pull it all the way through completely. We would still want the tube halfway inside. And then we're just going to line up the edges. Make sure, like I said before, to get the seam lines together at the top there, and you'll know that your hair tie is not twisted on the inside of the tube. And then we're going to sew around this tiny little circle. I use the sewing machine. It can be quite tricky in the sewing machine. Some people like to hand stitch this if your hand stitching is pretty good. Not like mine. But I found it easier to swap to a zipper foot because it's less bulky inside the tube. Okay, so I'm just going to pop some pins around the outside to have it stay in place. Okay, and then what you need to do is just get your foot just inside the lip. We want a small seam allowance on the inside. And sew all the way around the circle. This can be quite tricky, so I always end up doing it very slow, which sometimes, you know, you just have to keep lifting the fabric up every now and then just to move them out of the way, but it won't take long once you get the hang of it. Like I said, for some people this might be easier to hand sew, but whichever's easiest for you. You can see I'm just sort of starting and stopping, doing about a couple centimetres at a time, and then turning what I've got fabric wise until I meet my very first stitch, and then backwards and forwards, lock them, and there we go. And just cut the threads. And that's it. So now we need to turn it inside out. So in your little gap there that we've left, if you open it up, you can see the right side of the inside tube. So you just need to pull that through the hole, and then your whole tube will be inside the right way. There we go. You can see that all your seams are enclosed, and it just about meets at the top there on the seam along the top. Now I'm just going to give it a quick press. Just make sure all your seams are pushed out as far as they can. You might just need to give them a little wiggle every now and then just to open them right out and get the most of your fabric before you iron it. You can top stitch along there if you like, if you want to add an extra detail of a stitch, or, but I'm just going to leave mine with a nice fresh press. so now we need to cut some elastic. As you can see, it's just a centimetre wide, and I'm going to cut 8 inches. Obviously, if you're making a child's one, just make your elastic a little bit smaller. And then we're going to thread it through the little gap that we've left. And just make sure you hold on to the other end of the elastic with your hands so it doesn't go all the way through. There we go. So now we have 2 choices. You can either just tie this elastic into a knot and then slip it back into the inside of the tube. I'm going to sew mine just so I know it's extra strong. So I'm going to overlap it about 1.5 inches each way, pop some pins in so it's easier to sew, and then I'm going to use a zigzag stitch so that it's got some stretch in it. If you use just a straight stitch, it won't be able to stretch in that part of the elastic. It's quite tight, but I can just about get 8 inches of elastic around the base of my sewing machine. It can be quite fiddly just to get it going, and then zigzag stitch down to the bottom of the elastic where it joins. Cut away your threads. And there we go. And that is our scrunchie almost very nearly finished. All we need to do now is sew up the small little gap. You can hand stitch this with a ladder stitch, which is quite nice because you wouldn't see it when it's finished. But I'm going to do mine on the sewing machine with a very close to the edge top stitch. Like I said before, you can stitch all the way around the outside seam if you like as a decorative finish, but I'm just going to do that little gap there. Just cut away your thread so it's nice and neat. And if you use the same colour thread as your fabric, it's very difficult to see it once you're wearing your scrunchie. So that small couple inches of top stitch is quite well hidden, really. And there we go, your finished scrunchie. It's quite fun to try lots of different types of fabrics. I've just used a cotton, but any fun, exciting fabrics always look great. Hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.